It's no longer the deep state is a conspiracy. We are now at the deep state is real and is running for president.
But I think you also have to wake up to that reality. People are okay.
And so now the question is the deep state actually responsible for these felony charges? Are they responsible for the assassination attempt? And what scares me is I'm leaning towards no. I'm leaning towards all just malfeasance and stupidity and inaction, but I think it's plausibly yes.
Yeah, but people are okay with that. That's what scares me. If somebody did shoot something at another person, what should happen to them?
You know, they can't get hurt.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone. What a crazy day to be alive and an American, and for you to be running for office in the middle of all of this. This is, again, one of those moments, so weird that this happened so soon after that, I think, pivotal debate, which in many ways felt like a turning point in American history. And then you have this.
Yeah, this summer really puts the crazy in democracy.
The crazy in democracy. So yeah, we are going to go over a few things here. One that we'll go over later is I want to give a full account of what actually happened and how it happened, because I've noticed that the newspapers have done a very poor job of that. Two, I want to talk about that within the context of this current political battle and what this means.
Yeah.
But the thing I want to start with, because it's what genuinely chilled me the most, and for those who don't know, I don't know who you are, but somebody just tried to assassinate Trump. And they was a 20-year-old. That means that this person would have been 12 when Trump first came into office. They shot at Trump. They just grazed him, his ear. But
2 people were killed, including the shooter, and 2 people were critically injured, and Trump had his ear pierced by a bullet.
It was 2 critical injuries, 1 victim death, 1 shooter death, and then Trump's ear being grazed. And obviously the optics of this for Trump are fantastic in terms of him coming out, shouting, fight, fight, fight. You know, I think a lot of people after that debate, this is something that I've heard in my friend circles, said, oh, they're going to try to have him assassinated. I thought they were crazy. They're like 2 weeks.
And literally like in a campaign strategy call recently, maybe just a couple of days ago, Biden said that we have to put Trump in the crosshairs, which now is just such bad wording.
Oh, and I remember when there was the attempted shooting, or there was a shooting of some Democratic representatives, and somebody had said something like that, or there was the time when Sarah Palin used crosshairs in one of her political ads.
And then Gabby Giffords was shot, and this was about 15 years ago, another politician, if you're not in the US. And then later, Sarah Palin actually sued someone who blamed her for this, I believe a media publication, for defamation or libel.
But the left was like, she needs to withdraw. She needs to, like, that is how seriously they took this. And they treat this like nothing when it's Biden and when it's a president who was almost assassinated. Now, we need to, the thing that was most chilling to me about this, because I want to start with this, was what you found, Simone, in terms of the newspapers trying to hide from the public that this had happened. So can you go over some of the initial headlines?
Yeah. So Trump escorted away after loud noises at PA rally from
the Washington Post.
CNN.
After loud noises at PA rally.
Loud noises. CNN reported Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally, which just makes it sound like he was tremendously old, like Biden or something. He took a spill, which is not great. And then here's USA Today. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president crowd.
Startled former president. Somebody's head friggin' exploded on stage. Now, in case you're like a lefty here and you're like, oh, it was very, you know, like it was a loud thing. Lots of people didn't know what was fully going on. You need to keep in mind a few things. One person was like, there's blood everywhere. It was very clear in the moment. It was
someone in the actual bleachers did get shot in the head and did die. So that is important to note. So some people are literally around a dead person. Trump's ear was grazed. What was, I think, really interesting was I was listening to some Australian coverage of this, because we're recording this fewer than 24 hours since this actually happened. And the Australian coverage, it was so funny. They're like, these Americans, guns are really big in America. And they've been training with school shooter drillings for most of their lives. So everyone knew immediately what to do once the shooter started firing, everyone hit the floor, but they also recovered really quickly. Within moments, they were chanting USA after adjusting to it. So they're painting Americans as these people like, oh, it's like that South Park school shooting episode.
Stanley, well, do you want to tell your father about what happened at school today?
Well, I flunked my math quiz.
No, the other thing.
What other thing?
Oh, the school shooting?
Yes, the school shooting.
Oh, yeah, some kid shot up the school.
Was it you?
No.
Did you get shot?
No.
Oh. Well, what's this about failing a math quiz?
It seems that almost everyone immediately knew this was an active shooting, so much so that the BBC was doing a piece on this. So we'll get to this in a second. But it's actually really important that everyone in the crowd realized this was an active shooting very quickly. And reporters who were not part of the American media establishment and didn't know they were supposed to spin this as a non-active shooting situation, specifically the BBC, immediately reported this as an active shooting.
Yeah, instead of a loud noise. One of our friends even sent us a picture of the bullet that was captured mid-frame. You can see a line in the air.
Yeah.
And I wrote back, I'm like, that's a very fascinating looking loud noise.
But this matters because we lived in an environment up until recently where the US media was able to get away with this kind of lying to the American public.
Yeah.
And I
now
think
this was a rally. So finally, we're in a situation where there were hundreds of people with active recording phones at that moment.
And they thought they could get away with lying about this. That astounds me. So this type of media attempting to gaslight the American people, since Elon bought X, it's come out increasingly that this has been happening very regularly.
Yeah.
Because before that, they also had the big tech firms in their pocket. And if they still had them all, I suspect they may have tried to run with the loud noise narrative. And for people who are like, no, they wouldn't do that, even though it obviously came out that they were wrong about this, I suggest you Google the recent outbreak of trans mass shooters. You will see Elon talking about it. You will see people on X talking about it. And then you will find at the top of your Google results and at the top of your news results that it is a myth. That is what all of the papers will say. This is a myth, even though it's very easy to confirm. So I'll just go over here just so people know, like, real news. This is why real news channels like this are important instead of going through the corporate mass media. In 2017, there was the Randy Stair mass shooting in Tenahawken, PA. This was it's known as the Danny Phantom shooting. If you want to see the Turkey Tom episode on it, it's actually pretty good.
Never heard of it. Okay.
No, because the media covered up most of these mass shootings because they were done by trans people. Next, you had a shooting at a Maryland distribution center in 2018. Then you had a school shooting in Denver in 2019. So no, right now, 2017, 2018, 2019. Then the Colorado Springs LGBT nightclub shooter, self-identified as non-binary. They've tried to say, oh, he doesn't deserve that identity because he did this shooting. Yeah, but he did identify that way. That was in 2022. Then in 2023, the Nashville school shooting was also transgender. Now, people can be like, oh, that's not that many. That's only 4 mass shooters, almost one a year. That's not that many mass shooters. And then I would point out that since 1982 in the United States, there have only been 4 cis female mass shootings. So just since 2017, there has been as many trans mass shootings as there have been female mass shootings since 1982. That is absolutely an epidemic. I just can't even that anyone could pretend that this is anything other than like a major issue that we need to take care of. But it goes against the extreme leftists, the urban monoculture's narrative around what's happening. And so they have continued to try to suppress it. And I think just because the story about it hasn't got viral enough yet, they've been able to get away with it. Whereas with the attempted assassination, they had to backtrack. After and to just think that would be your initial instinct. You see a guy's head explode and your initial instinct is, oh, this isn't going to be good for my campaign. Let's cover it up. Do you have any thoughts on this before we go further? So I wanted to hear your thoughts on the attempted media cover up of this. I mean, it was clearly coordinated across multiple platforms. That was the thing that really got me. It wasn't like a few people or one person messed up.
There are already multiple conspiracy theories around this. I think that it's not as malicious as people think it is, in that I don't think it was coordinated. I don't think people got on a call and were like, hey, we need to head this off. I think it's more that most mainstream media outlets will take the least charitable interpretation of something that Trump does at any given time. And I think a lot of that's commercially driven. We have to keep in mind that most of the people reading these mainstream media outlets that have not already completely been alienated by their dishonesty and by their political bias are extremely progressive people. And those extremely progressive people have what's known as Trump derangement syndrome. And if anything is even slightly charitable toward him, they're going to get angry and probably go to another publication, because these are the people who invented cancellation.
Simone, I would normally agree with you, but even for a progressive media piece, an attempted assassination is going to get more clicks than there was a loud noise and an old man fell over. I think that, like, I hear you. I think that what you are right about it, I don't think that this was coordinated. I think it was just, if there are multiple potential interpretations of something that somebody saw, they will choose the most, even if it's not what the majority of evidence supports, even if it requires a little bit of a distortion of reality, they'll choose the one that makes Trump look the worst. But then you've also got to look at it in the context of this trans shooting cover-up. And I think
so that there is this sort of concerted feeling of civic obligation as viewed from the perspective of these journalists and editors of, okay, this happened, but we can't let it cause the unthinkable, with the unthinkable being, oh, people will start to be against trans rights, or in this case, people will possibly be swayed to vote for Trump when they otherwise would not have, correct?
Yeah. And this is also where I think it's really interesting. I think that the public actually got pretty, when I say the public, the urban monoculture, the Dems got pretty lucky that Trump wasn't hit in this assassination attempt. It would have been catastrophic for them if he had been hit. Specifically, it would have meant that one of his kids would likely be running in his place. That would have been who the party would rally behind.
Wow.
No, think about it. His kids have already shown an interest in getting politically active. They, as a matter of family honor, would likely see it as a responsibility to run. This would be somebody running who just had their father be shot by the other team. It would have made them a shoo-in for office.
The GOP and the political apparatus would not have let that happen. I hear you. It's just that they have like none of the infrastructure set up,
and
to
that's
take
why
that
it
kind
would
of
have.
role.
That's why it would have happened. So this is, I'll tell you exactly how the events would have played out. Okay, if the GOP immediately rallied behind them, it wouldn't happen. But what gave Trump his validity in the mind of his base is that the GOP started hating him, and then he overcame that, and now they mostly follow him. If immediately after his assassination, because you've got to think about who else takes the presidential spot, a number of people would have put their hands up. One of them would have been his sons. The GOP would have immediately said, oh, you can't, all the stodgy politicians would have immediately said, oh, you can't go to his son. He's not qualified enough. He's not whatever enough. And then all of the memes would have come out of them saying the exact same thing about Trump in the past, easily, because no one else is like an heir apparent right now in terms of post-Trump. Naturally, the public sentiment, especially among Trump's most fervent base, would have gone to his son. And really the only thing that could have prevented it is both of the older ones running at once. That's the only thing that could have prevented this from happening. And then you've got the problem of, then you have a genuine Trumpist dynasty with the Republican Party becoming the party of Trump's family. Now, a lot of Americans feel like that could never happen, but this has actually happened in a number of other Democratic parties where certain parties are just the party of X family. And that, I think, would be very bad.
Do you mean like the Bushes and the Trumps and the Clintons or the Kennedys?
No, so we've never really had this happen in the US. We have had candidates get elected multiple times. So you've had, the only instance that I can think of that it would be even remotely close to this is the George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. But the problem is the George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. is their political platforms really didn't have that much continuity. It wasn't that they were getting elected one after another. There were other candidates in between them, and they weren't seen as part of an interconnected brand. Now, the Clintons and then Chelsea winning, that would have been an instance of this, but that didn't happen. And then with that happening, I also wouldn't be as worried, because who knows if Chelsea's even going to have that many kids. Does she have kids? Like for
I
this to
think
happen,
Clinton has at least one child. Yes.
yeah, for this to happen, you need an actually fecund family where you can have multiple family members run if another one can't run. So with the Trump family, one son loses, then the other one's running next time, and then you've got his kids. So you actually need a large enough family for this to be a real risk. And the Trump family, especially after a Trump assassination, would pose a very real risk of this. And it's not that I have a problem with his kids. I just don't think it's politically healthy for one party in this country to become overly associated with one family or another. And there just isn't anyone else in the wings. That's the problem. You're like, oh, they wouldn't choose the kids. Who else are they going to rally behind this shortly before the convention?
Touche.
Then you have the secondary problem, which I also think is really interesting. Is some people have been like, yeah, there's Dems cheering about this and saying, oh, they wish he had been hit. Like Destiny, for example, made a post about this, which is like, all I see is Biden +1 in a picture of one of the dead Trump supporters, which is obviously really horrible that anyone would say that. But a lot of people are like, Republicans would be the same way. And I'm like, no, my God, no. There isn't a Republican alive in the US right now who would want Biden assassinated. Not for his interest. It's just, I can see a Democrat having him assassinated right now because it would solve an enormous problem the Democrats have at the moment, which is his dementia problem.
Yeah.
But he is literally, he is so much more harmful to the party alive than dead. Yeah. And it's also interesting that the shooter didn't think this through. A lot of people just don't really think through. I do X, what happens next?
We don't know what the shooter
we
was
do know,
all about.
actually. So I can go further into the shooter stuff that we do know about because there's been a piece of information that somehow the media hasn't really picked up. So a lot of people know this is what we do know. Okay. So the guy was 20.
His name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. He is a 20-year-old from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, which was about 40 miles from where the Trump rally took place. He likely used an AR-15, almost certainly used an AR-15 to shoot him. And he was registered to vote at the time of his death, so as of yesterday, as a Republican. Only known political donation was to Act Blue, which supports Democratic candidates. So it's a bit of a
confusing situation.
Okay.
And this is what the media hasn't picked up. So there was a misidentified individual who made some social media posts about how much he hated Trump and Republicans.
Yeah, this random Twitter user who also was a white young man with longish hair.
Yeah, so people misidentified. On our Discord, they described the shooter as looking like a failed abortion.
Jesus.
What are you doing, Octavian? Come here. The audience wants to meet you.
So you just put that all the way in.
Okay.
All the way, and you gotta pull that all the way.
Oh, you gotta be strong for that.
And then do this.
Whoa! And what's the rule of this?
Cleaning up the mess.
And what's the other rule?
No, when it is this a person.
Especially not the president, right?
No.
Yeah, you would never point that at the president.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And this, if this gun actually fine to kill persons. I mean, hurt persons. Okay.
It won't kill or hurt people. You mean?
No. Yeah, it only hurt people. So you gotta be careful with it. Okay, mommy.
I will be careful with it. Thank you.
Because they'll get hurt.
Okay, Octavian. If somebody did shoot something at another person, what should happen to them?
You know, they can get hurt.
Yeah.
That does happen. Yeah.
They should get hurt if they try to shoot somebody, right?
Yeah.
All right, come on, get up. This is a piece of information that they didn't pick up.
Okay, I don't know this then. I'm curious.
Okay. The shooter was 20 years old. You cannot register for a party in the United States before the age of 18. That gives us a window for when he registered. So while we don't know when he registered, we do know it was around or after when he made the donation to the Democratic Party. It wasn't like he flipped parties or something like that, because some people are asking like, maybe he was a registered Republican for a long time, and then recently he became Democratic and started donating to Democrats. But that's not the case. The registration happened before or after the donation. So we have two events that we know about, right? We know that he donated to Democratic political candidates. Then we know that during X period, he registered as a Republican. And then 2 years later, he tries to assassinate the head of the Republican Party during both of those 2 periods. This to me
in the 2022 election 2 years ago when he was 18.
Yes.
Theoretically, was not a presidential election. So Trump wasn't involved at all. It was a mid-cycle election. If anything, he would have participated in that election to vote in the primary against specific Republicans that he wanted to keep out of office. But that's a really odd thing. I honestly just think he probably registered as a Republican for some reason. He owned an AR-15 or had access to one. That's the kind of thing that a Republican would do.
He might just own an AR-15. His dad did.
Oh, his dad did?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that the news, this is my read, I think it's going to come out very obviously that he was a crazed Democrat, and the news is going to try to spin it that he was a Republican. Be sure that you guys have the most up-to-date information here, and these go live a bit after we film them. So more information has come out about the potential assassin, what he was like in school. Specifically, he was a very lonely individual. He didn't appear to have many friends. One person even described him as the type of person you'd expect to shoot up a school. He wasn't known as having strong political opinions. And as to his shooting ability, I'll read a little excerpt here from an article from ABC. Myers and another student said that Crooks tried to join the school's rifle team, but was rejected and asked not to return after a preseason session. Quote, he didn't just not make the team, he was asked not to come back because of how bad a shot he was. It was considered, like, dangerous, end quote, said Myers. Another member of the team who asked not to be named told ABC News that there was a view that Crooks, quote, wasn't really a fit for the rifle team, end quote, and, quote, he also shot terrible, end quote.
Yeah, we'll see. This is the conjecture part, but there are some things that we can talk about a little bit more solidly, like the political fallout, and also like some interesting things. I want
to go over the specific events before we go further.
Yeah, because I think some of the eyewitness reports were really interesting.
Okay, so on July 14th, 2024, an assassination attempt was made against U.S. former President Donald Trump during a campaign rally in Butler County, Pennsylvania. The timeline of events: 6:02 p.m., Trump takes the stage. 6:11, a few minutes into Trump's speech, gunfire erupts. Now, we should note, before this, some of the audience members saw the other guy climbing onto this building with a gun and then army crawling into position and tried to alert the Secret Service, who did not notice.
Yeah, specifically, I love the quote from that one redheaded local businessman who's, we're like, hey, man, this guy on the roof with a rifle, and the police were like, huh? They didn't know what was going on. Just the way he delivered it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's another man reported, and I can send you a link from this if you want to include the clip, but another man present on the scene told a police officer that a man was up on the roof. So police officers were being informed about this from multiple people. And there's even footage that came out on Twitter, I think, from cell phone coverage, people like uploading stuff on their cell phone, of moments before shots were fired, people screaming, he has a gun.
Yes, and I should note, because people are like, this seems like an assassination attempt by the left. It's actually plausible, and I'll explain why I think it's plausible that this was done in a more coordinated fashion. I will show an aerial footage of the stage and the location where the shooter was. There are no other raised buildings in the area. If you are familiar with, even just from movies like myself, and you are scouting an area for potential shooters, you look for raised platforms where they could set up. This isn't like a kind of like an obvious raised platform. This is at the beach if you were looking for a lifeguard, like a lifeguard stand. It's like not noticing the lifeguard in the lifeguard stand. It was incredibly obvious, and then obvious to the crowd tried to notify multiple people. And everyone was saying after Biden's performance in our circles, the left is going to try to assassinate him after this. And this ended up happening. And keep in mind, sorry, before I go back, I'm going to get to the attempt to smear him with this absolutely bogus felony conviction. But I'm going to do that after we get through the timeline of events. because this is also really interesting, like just how far they've gone in trying to get him and how much they have ignored democratic norms at this point. Sorry. So 6:11 to 6:12, the shooting lasts less than a minute. One spectator is killed and 2 others are critically injured. Snipers from Trump's security detail kill the suspected attacker. So when I first heard this, I was like, that's sus. How did he hit spectators if the crowd was below? Trump was on a raised platform and he was on a raised platform. Did you have that immediate thought as well?
No.
The way he hit them is there was a bleacher of spectators behind Trump, and that's how he ended up hitting spectators, which is just absolutely horrible that this happened.
It's devastating.
Yeah, it's devastating. To think that you and I could have gone to a campaign rally. These people had families and everything. It's just absolutely horrifying.
The man who was killed, his family was with him there.
Oh my God.
They witnessed, I mean, they were in shock, obviously. It's just horrible.
So I want to read into the script what was the daughter of the man who died said about him and the event. Yesterday, time stopped, and when it started again, my family and I started living a real-life nightmare. What was supposed to be an exciting day that we had all looked forward to, especially my dad, turned into the most traumatizing experiences someone could imagine. I know the media will cover this event, and I'm going to try my best to stay away from looking at everything, especially because I've already seen and lived through it in real time. But I want everyone to know what the media will not cover and will not say about him. He was the best dad a girl could ever ask for. My sister and I never needed for anything. You call, he would answer, and he would do whatever it is you needed. And if you didn't know how, he would figure out how. He could talk and make friends with anyone, which he was doing all day yesterday and loved every minute of it. He was a man of God, loved Jesus fiercely, and also looked after our church and our members as family. The media will not tell you that he died a real-life superhero. They are not going to tell you how quickly he threw my mom and I to the ground. They are not going to tell you that he shielded my body from the bullets that came at us. He loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us, and I want nothing more than to cry on him and tell him thank you. I want nothing more than to wake up and this to not be reality for me and my family. We lost a selfless, loving husband, father, brother. So he had 2 kids. And then you have the scene, and this is the scene that really changed everything. There were so many ways that this could have gone. That it went with Trump being ducked down after his ear was shot and he felt the blood gushing and everything like that. But then that his immediate reaction to this was not to run away or anything like that, but to put up his hand and to start yelling, fight.
And it should be emphasized that is not easy to do. One, Trump is in his mid-70s or something. So what happens is he ducked when he realized that he had been shot. Then he was almost immediately tackled by his Secret Service detail. They've been trained to create a human shield when there's an active shooter situation. So I think they like turtle over the president, and then their job
fighting them.
Yeah. And so he actually, as they were trying to remove him from the stage, was actively fighting them to get his head to stick out from the turtle of Secret Service people that had formed around him to put up his fist and pump the air and say, fight. Actually, though, what picked up on the mics first before he started fighting to get out was like, take my shoes. I want to keep my shoes with me. So he was wearing some nice kicks.
No, the reason why he wanted his shoes, by the way, that's been speculated, and I fully believe this. It's very Trump.
He wears lifters or something.
Yeah, he wears heavy lifters. It would make sense. How tall a president has been shown in statistics
totally
to
matters.
really affect.
Yeah, and you're taking so many pictures with people. You've got to look tall. Yeah,
you've got to look tall. So
this is a man who understands his image, but also like for a 70-year-old man to fight off the Secret Service to make it out after being shot at. If we could have 5% of as majestic a reaction to being shot.
Oh, every person. I want to run for president just so I can do this.
No, I never ever want to see you in danger. You're not allowed to get shot at. You're not allowed to get in danger. This is not something you are allowed to want.
But no, it's one of these things. Like guys just have these fantasies about somebody attacks their family and then they come out and defend them. But one of the fantasies of every male politician is they get shot and then like Teddy Roosevelt, for people who aren't familiar with this, Teddy Roosevelt got shot before a like 50-page speech, and he went through the speech after getting shot before leaving the stage. Then there's the famous incident of the guy who tried to attack Andrew Jackson, and his gun didn't go off, and Andrew Jackson had a cane, and he just went at him like a chimpanzee, beating the guy. And I think I don't know if the guy died or like almost died.
Jesus.
But
sounds like Jackson.
Very,
so that's
right,
great.
you know,
That's fantastic.
that is not a guy who you want to. I can just imagine, because if anyone knows like Andrew Jackson's reputation,
Yeah,
he was
if you're
known
gonna
for
shoot,
doing,
don't miss.
like, way too many duels. He was like really into duels and killing people, and that was his reputation in the war. And the campaign ads against him showed him sitting on a mountain of skulls. I actually genuinely hate Andrew Jackson as a person.
He's
and
a hateable person.
I do not like that the right, or some people on the right, have tried to compare Trump to him. Trump is nothing like Andrew Jackson.
No,
Andrew Jackson is
no.
America's Hitler. And absolutely deserves to be remembered as such. I just so people know like why I hate him so much. What he did with the Native Americans was absolutely inexcusable. The Cherokee people had tried, because of Andrew Jackson, we can't say if you just adopted the Western ways and worked with our government peacefully, that everything would have turned out okay for you, because they did all of that. And then he just basically went into peaceful settlements and started shooting people and then taking them basically captive and moving them to unproductive land and taking all their stuff just so his cronies could get land. He was a genuinely horrible person. And the way he acted during his life, like all of these duels that you didn't need to do, like the way if you were manly and you were doing a duel, most people were like supposed to miss on purpose. And Andrew Jackson would do the thing where the other person would miss, and then he'd just slowly like line up the shot after that because they were one-shot muskets. He had no honor. He was a bad guy. But to think getting in front of a guy like this and your gun goes, this guy is, oh, now I get to kill you free of charge in front of a crowd. Hooray!
Gosh.
Anyway, we got to keep going here. I think going forward, this fight is going to become his main rally this campaign. Is the fist in the air. And I actually think it lends itself to a perfect rally for a Trump campaign, where it feels like he has been unjustly hit with felonies. He has been unjustly maligned in the media. He has had assassination attempts on him. And I think that this is the way a lot of Americans feel right now. I was talking to, in our Discord, one person was like, it's not for you to decide whether or not the felony classification of Trump was justified. This isn't a court of public opinion thing. This is for the professionals.
Technically, like, yeah.
We can see the legal stuff. Like, we're not stupid. We can see that this was trumped up. And they're like, no, you don't know that. You're not a professional. I'm like, no, this is for the court of public opinion. When, as happens in many countries throughout history, the legal establishment becomes corrupt and the citizen body of a democracy is supposed to fix it. How can they fix it if they just create these heuristics? We don't look at the results of trials. I don't try to apply critical thought to that. That is how the left has been able to get as far as they have applied this. You're not a journalist, therefore you don't get to make these kinds of judgments. You're not a scientist, therefore you don't get to make these kinds of judgments. You're not a legal scholar, therefore you don't get to make these types of judgments. And for those who haven't looked into the felony classification, I want to read for you guys what comes out of AI. I think anyone who's looking at this in any way sober-minded would be like, oh my God, this is Banana Republic stuff. This is, you know, what you get in developing countries that don't have real political apparatus. And somebody comes out, they challenge the regime, and then they get slapped by, it's Putin-esque, to be honest. In New York, falsifying business records can be either a misdemeanor or a felony. It becomes a felony first degree when the act of falsifying records was done with the intent to commit or conceal another crime. In Trump's case, prosecutors argued that the falsification was done to unlawfully influence the 2016 election. Now, that's insane. I think anyone who is being honest with themselves and looking at that charge can be like, wait, so where is the additional crime? Is the crime... Okay. Is the crime literally just that Trump was running for office? Is that what they consider a crime? And the answer is basically yes. That is what they considered a crime, and that is why... And anyone who's reading it can see this. And when you read it, I remember you read it for the first time and you were like, I was surprised at how flimsy it was. What were your thoughts when you first started researching that case? No, go collect all the bullets. I noticed you made a mess.
Oh, clean up the mess, buddy. It was, what bothered me was that people involved specifically were elected with the promise that they would do this to Trump. So it was very clearly politically motivated, like literally politically motivated. And that the technicality on which he was given this felony charge involved choosing one crime and then like selecting some other crime that had to have happened at the same time, something along those lines. And it just seemed somewhat arbitrary, just like technically, how do we get him? But that's how law works. That's how this functions. It's not technically wrong. I just also think that if you want to play this game, you could technically get anyone on anything pretty much. You just have to have enough people who are really trying to catch you on these technicalities. So no one is safe if this is how we're going to play the game.
Yeah. So to be clear, this is falsifying business records. So first you have to keep in mind how many business records Trump has and the way he does business, which is, and everyone in that sector really does business when you're dealing with that size of deals, which is you're always moving money around in ways that is plausibly shady. So all they needed to do is say, really any of his normal business dealings was connected to some vague other crime without proving or specifying what the other crime was. And that really just meant anyone could be connected of a felony who was in the type of business that Trump was in.
Well, but I also think anyone who has worked in politics or who's done pretty much anything can be convicted of maybe not a felony, but of absolutely something for sure. Which is why one of the top rules that you should always live by is never commit a crime while committing a crime, because it just compounds your odds of getting caught. But it's really hard to, I think, not commit crimes, mostly because there's a lot of crimes that you just don't know about.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of laws out there. Obviously, in some states, it's even illegal to go out dressed a certain way or something, like because there are these really antiquated laws that are still technically on the books. So what I'm saying is that, again, if this is how we want to play the game, anyone's fair game. But it is disturbing.
Wanted to note something else here was that the place where the guy was shooting from was 120 to 150 meters away. And if you look at the venue, it was very obvious, like it was close. It is just wild that this happened. So do you have any, what do you think happens next?
Yeah. In terms of like how, you're saying that this could have been a conspiracy on the left. I do not think that's what happened. I do think that there are a couple of things that contributed to this. It is interesting that in the past, his requests to increase his secret security detail have been denied. So people are going to have little infarctions about that for a while, no doubt. It's also interesting that, and there's footage of this that anyone can see, the counter snipers with the Secret Service that were on an adjacent nearby roof were seen earlier, just hanging out on the roof. And then right before shots were fired, they were already engaged, as in to say they were looking through their sights and aiming their guns. And then right after the shots fired, they made slight adjustments and shot. So I think what
sounds like they delayed shooting until after this guy had shot.
That's what people are saying. Now, I don't actually think that there was a concerted attempt to delay shooting. I think that there was a desire. There's that same, people assume that there's a conspiracy when it's really just a mixture of incompetence and poor coordination, which is far more likely that you're starting to get this report of people are saying there's someone with a gun. People are reporting something, and then you see someone, but you don't want to be the person responsible for accidentally shooting an innocent person who was on a roof trying to get a better view.
But here's the thing: the audience knew it wasn't an innocent person. The audience that was seeing it happen was like, "Oh my God, there's a guy army crawling with an AR-15 into position
with a rifle." So, they knew it was clearly a rifle. They didn't know it was an AR-15. But yeah.
Clearly a rifle. And he was apparently army crawling for a while. But here's what I'm going to do again is I'm going to put the picture of the venue on screen. People can look at this and say, you are a counter sniper in a higher level position where you can see this scene. Is there any way you couldn't have seen this guy with plenty of warning?
Well, it's a big crap.
Is it at all plausible that you couldn't have seen this happening? I don't want to be too conspiratorial, but I also just don't know. Were they just not doing their jobs at all?
I err in favor of that I always tend to read, if anything, benign incompetence to people rather than some kind of concerted attempt to do something shady. Though people do sometimes do shady things. But yeah, I do not think that is what happened. But it is interesting that happened. And I think it just goes to show that you cannot throw money at a problem or hire the best professionals and assume that it's going to be okay. You are never actually safe. Your driver is never actually paying attention. Your accountant is never actually checking all of your transactions. And just to assume that they've got it, that anyone has got it aside from you or someone that you're working very closely with, it's your fault when something goes wrong. I'm just going to put that out there. So I just wanted to point out that little detail because I watched the video and I was like, well, that's weird, but there you go. It is kind of weird.
This election, and I was actually thinking of doing a different episode on this, but it is just worth noting here that this election, after the debate, has really transformed its nature. Because in the last couple elections, Trump was like, I'm running against the deep state, right? I want to fight the deep state.
He's such a loud mouth breather. He's no subtlety. No subtlety.
And now Trump.
I made the camera, my dada.
Yeah.
My dada. Oh, my dada.
But with Biden now officially not being the person who's running the country, like we all know this now.
Yeah.
And they're like, and the Democrats are going, yeah, but everything's running fine. It doesn't really matter if Biden is incompetent. You're just electing the people around him. And it's, oh, you're electing the deep state, right? This now is literally, because we know that Biden is like a Weekend at Bernie's it. They're like marionetting a corpse.
But people also know, they know that it's been, while we may only have realized this. Okay, hold on 1 second. We may have only just learned that Biden is definitely for sure not running the country, and that instead the nation is being run by a group of unelected, mostly faceless bureaucrats and
the deep state
leaders, the deep state. But I think a lot of people have decided that they're okay with that. They say, are things that bad now? Are things falling apart now? No, it's okay. Here's the thing, Malcolm. I asked one of our friends in Pennsylvania, who is a pure Pennsylvania friend, cool guy, doesn't own a computer, but is still cool and nerdy, like runs D&D games and stuff, has a local business, cool guy, smart. I asked him, hey, what do you think of this? And who are you going to vote for? And he's like, I just really hate Trump. And honestly, are things that bad right now? And I asked him, how do you feel about being in a nation of unelected, faceless people running your country? And he's honestly, things aren't that bad right now. I even asked him to he listed unprompted his most important priorities for a president. Actually, let me pull up what he sent to me, because he still doesn't want to vote for Trump. And he still plans, probably on like protest voting for Kennedy, despite the fact that the following are the most important things to him. Admittedly, one is more democratic. 1, the environment. 2, property taxes removed. Better yet, complete reform. More on that later. 3, children. 4, prosecuting pedophiles. These are the 4 things I want. 75% of those 4 points highly favor Trump. He's not going to vote for Trump, period. This assassination hasn't changed his opinion at all. And there are lots of people like this who are centrists, who are smart. They may not be hyper online, but it's important for us to be aware of the opinions of people who are not hyper online, because I think it's very easy for people on the internet to be like, oh yeah, man, Trump wins now. And that's just not where the majority of Americans are. I don't know what to tell you, Malcolm.
I hear you, but the point I was making is what he admitted as well. It's no longer the deep state is a conspiracy. We are now at the deep state is real and is running for president.
Yeah, but people are okay with that. That's what scares me. But I think you also have to wake up to that reality. People are okay with that.
So now the question is the deep state actually responsible for these felony charges? Are they responsible for the assassination attempt? And what scares me is I'm leaning towards no. I'm leaning towards all just malfeasance and stupidity and inaction, but I think it's plausibly yes.
So I think the felony charges are somewhat part of this, but they're somewhat part of this in the same way that the biased media coverage of this assassination attempt is somewhat part of it, in the sense that there are people who work in these legal positions or these media positions who vehemently believe that there is no way that our democracy could survive Trump being elected again, that he would break the country, that he would break everything, ruin everything, and he cannot under any circumstances win. And I think that those people, of course, will pursue legal action and will pursue media action that may be not considered good form, in order to make that happen. But I don't think it's, okay, guys, we're going to get together. We're going to coordinate on this. One, they would know that would make them look extra culpable. And here there's plausible deniability. So they're not that dumb, but I also just don't think that they view it that way or do it that way either.
Oh, I have loved talking to you. We have seen our kids who have been raised on what I find so funny is Paw Patrol, one of their favorite shows, actually made by the urban monoculture. What does Paw Patrol teach you? Who are the villains? An incompetent bureaucrat. The mayor is always the villain in Paw Patrol. Yes.
No. Octavian, in Paw Patrol, who's the bad guy?
Who's the bad guy in Paw Patrol?
Mayor Humdinger.
Humdinger?
Mayor Humdinger, right?
Yeah, Mayor Humdinger have a top hat on it. And it said, you can arrest me, I'm the mayor.
Yeah,
what?
he does say that, doesn't he? Is he incompetent? Is he dumb?
No, he just go fair and square.
Oh, he says fair and square a lot.
Oh, because, but is it actually fair and square? Or is he lying, Octavian?
He does it fair and square at the same times. And he gets the cloudcaster to blow and then makes a storm.
Wait. I have a question, Octavian. Are all mayors bad guys?
No, all mirrors are not bad guys. Only one mirror is a bad guy.
Good job, buddy.
Okay.
Now, see, I think what Octavian identified here is what the urban monoculture is actually trying to tell us is that capitalists are bad guy. Because he wears a top hat, Octavian says. I don't actually know what Mayor Humdinger looks like, but Octavian says he wears a top hat. That is code for capitalist. Right, Octavian?
But Octavian, what do you think of communists?
I think about it is great.
What? You think communism is great?
Yeah.
Real communism hasn't been tried, right, Octavian?
Yeah, Octavian, you need to learn the phrase. If you're going to say that, you need to say real communism has never been tried. Can you say that?
Real poppin' has never been tried.
What did you think of the trains?
I liked it.
Can you say that you're going to make all the trains run on time?
Yeah, but Daddy said I gotta look at them, not get them. It's like a museum.
Yeah, I said, look, so we did this horrifying thing today where we took our kids to an antique train show and it was not really set up for kids. Oh, okay, you're the microphone. Oh, thank you. And so when you got 3 kids and you're trying to keep them from grabbing the trains from an antique toy show, because they also had other antique toys as well, many of which were for sale at insane prices.
Oh, God.
That was a horrible mistake on my part. What do you think, Octavian? Was that a mistake on Dada's part?
No, it's not. No, it was not.
What do you think dads are supposed to do for their kids?
He helps the kids.
And how does a good mommy, what does a good mommy do?
And a good kisses too when you be nice.
Yeah. Give kisses when you're nice.
Oh.
What does a good brother do?
A good brother do nice.
Yeah. I think people can see that we are obviously abusing our children. This is a kid who is terrified of me. And right, Octavian, you think is daddy scary?
No, it's not.
That is exactly what an abusive parent would force their child to say.
You could tell that he's crying under all this. This was all staged.
Sick, Malcolm. You make me sick.
So I've got a question for you. Somebody tried to shoot the president yesterday. Did you know that?
I know. Taste unrest Mayor Humdinger.
Okay, and so what do you think should happen to the person who tried to shoot the president?
He went to Mason, but the guy just told him Mayor Humdinger, but his mayor says, no dogs. I ordered the no mayor.
I think our LLM is hallucinating.
That's more of a cat person. That's all. If those are the rules, those are the rules.
Okay.
You guys have a perfect day. And that's what he said, okay?
Okay.
And that's what they said to him.
This is a scene from the movie, by the way,
said,
the Paw Patrol movie.
Okay.
That he's going over. But yes, the LLM is hallucinating. And that's what we mean when we talk about, like, when you have young kids, you're like, maybe LLMs aren't as different from humans as I can do input commands and try to get him to respond, but sometimes it'll be like on an adjacent topic. You're very good at holding the microphone, by the way. You like watching cardboard guns get made? Okay, Octavian, do you want to say to the fans of the show that you're really excited that they're joining, and as you get older, you'll come on more?
Yeah, I need to tell them something.
What
do you want to tell them?
I just want to tell them that I'm going to show them my magic trick that you remembered yesterday.
Okay, share the magic trick.
That I did not have anything that I forgot. I just forgot them.
Oh, so he knows magic. He wants you to know that, but he forgot the equipment.
Good job, buddy. I love you.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't remember the magic trick.
No, I need someone to warn me how magic works.
You need
Oh,
somebody
okay.
to teach you how magic works?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea, buddy.
And if people want, we can try to do more with our kids. Do you like attacking Daddy with Toasty and Titan?
No, I want to attack Daddy. I want to attack Daddy with nobody.
Oh, you like attacking Daddy on your own. So it's a fair fight.
Yeah.
Fair and square.
Yeah. I like attacking fair and square.
All right, buddy. I love you. Bye.
Bye.
While I make that quick note, there's going to be poop everywhere if I don't take action
sure.
now. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Take action.
Oh, you look at me like I'm so innocent. I'm so innocent. Oh. Not so innocent. Oops, you did it again. You poop so much. There's poop everywhere. Oh, baby, baby, oops, you think you're okay. But there's poop anywhere. You're not that innocent. Oh my God. Okay, we're back.
I love your singing, by the way. Do you do that every time you change her?
I'm constantly talking to her. The greatest thing about having kids is I always talk to myself anyway, but now I don't sound like I'm crazy because I'm talking to a baby instead.
You are amazing. Perfect. And this is how you show off trad wifing. This is real trad wifing. It is diaper changes and singing crazy songs.
Diaper changes during podcasting. Actually, that is so real trad wifing because the only real trad wife is a social media poster.
All right.
Yeah.
Back on topic.
If you wouldn't mind just bringing milk to Toasty. He just woke up and he's crying. Thank you, Malcolm. No problem. You're the best. That's why I married you. No, actually, I married you because you're crazy hot and I was in love with you. But also because you're perfect. Kind of person I wish existed and I didn't know existed. Yeah. Just wish I could be him. I did. Yeah. True story. I just was like, how could this person actually exist? And it was pretty awesome. I was very happy. I didn't.
Always so many distractions.